So I just completed a 6-week batch of composting in a Nebraska winter using a tumbler from rotting pumpkins and gourds and kitchen scraps. So I started this on the 3rd week of November. It is now the 1st week of January, and I've produced 15 gallons, more than 15 gallons worth of usable compost. This compost is exactly what I'm looking for. It's mostly light and fluffy. There are some leftover pieces of cardboard that I'm not too concerned about. I'll throw that in the yard anyway. Yeah, this is pretty ideal compost. We'll talk about in a moment some of the less ideal results that I'm not too worried about, but we'll get into those details. But like I said, a Nebraska winter in 6 weeks using a tumbler, these are very, very good results. So how do we get these kinds of results? The main factor I have in my mind is surface area. As a woodworker, I obviously produce a ton of sawdust, a ton of wood shavings. So this sort of stuff, you can just see wood shaving, sawdust. This is a ton of surface area compared to its size. That is a great way to accelerate the composting process. The way I accelerate the composting with my greens, and in this case, my pumpkins and my gourds, just slice them up. It's the same thing, just slice them up, maximize the surface area. Don't throw in the whole pumpkin or the whole gourd in wholesale, slice those suckers up. I also did one extra thing to give it a little extra boost, which is to put all those sliced pieces into a bucket that was full of sawdust, mix it up a little bit, and more or less just coat the outside of all those sliced pieces with sawdust, so that when I put it into my tumbler, I was giving the kinds of microbes that I wanted to encourage growth with a little bit of a head start. So they got a lot of green material and the brown material right there. And just again, encourage the kinds of results or the kinds of microbes I'm trying to attract here. Now that batch of compost never got to a point of what I would call hot composting. It did get up to near 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That is fairly warm. However, that's not typical of what you would call hot composting. But as you can see from these results, that doesn't really matter. The composting process began. I kept the ratios good, sufficiently watered, sufficiently turned within my tumbler, and we got the results anyway, so that's good. We'll talk about the seeds in a moment here, so let's get into some of the results that we have here. Again, obviously I showed you, we have the nice fluffy variety of compost, which is exactly what I want. Not all of it was nice and light and fluffy. A lot of the gourds in particular didn't have their shells completely composted through or completely decomposed. That's okay. I'm just going to take them anyway and put them in outside where I'm using my compost, because this will be worm food in the spring. Not a big deal. So yeah, just a lot of those shells continued on. Avocado shell, another one that's hard to compost. It takes a while to compost. In terms of the pumpkin seeds and the gourd seeds, you can see here what happens when you put those seeds in the compost. And I'm not saying this as a bad thing, I'm just trying to manage expectations here. A lot of these seeds did end up sprouting and ultimately dying, and I'm okay with that. Like this is still green material. Yes, it used up some of the nitrogen within the compost, but you know what? I think I would do this again if I had to do it all over again. I think I would continue to throw all my pumpkin and gourd seeds into the compost pile and let them die as it gets turned and as the cold weather kills the seedlings, because I'd rather do that. That's much easier for me than to filter out. If you've ever de-seeded a pumpkin, you know how painful and messy it is. I didn't want to do that, and I still don't want to do that. So if I had to do this all over again, I would continue to throw the seeds into the tumbler and just let them sprout and die and just deal with it that way. So this video was just short and sweet, just trying to get to the punchline. You can compost using a tumbler in the wintertime using pumpkins and other material. The trick here is try to have it somewhat warm and maximize surface area. Cut those pumpkins up, cut those gourds up. Don't worry about the seeds, throw them in anyway. And if you actively maintain the decomposition process, you can get results in 6 weeks. I often hear about people not getting results until 4 to 6 months. To those people, I would say, chop up your material. You can get results much more quickly if you actively manage your pile and maximize the surface area of the material you're using. That's all I have to share today. Thanks for watching.